So, okay, when it comes to acting and stuff, there's something I have to know. The
How
lines.
do you know the lines?
Bro,
Are you gonna
yo,
ask the
yes,
question?
yes.
That's I gotta say, like, that is the number one question that actors get asked. But it's like, how do you learn the lines?
Yeah. How do you learn them? And also mentally, I'm sure you have to get the lines to a point where you feel completely confident, right?
Yeah, preferably.
Yeah.
It's not that, like, I gotta say, like, I don't think it's that difficult. Like, well, obviously it's a muscle that you kind of train, and then it like becomes easier and easier by the years. And you notice it, especially like when doing like theater, or if you do like a bigger part in a show, like a TV show where you have like a lot of text, and then you gotta work with the text every day and stuff like that. And then you notice at some point that it sticks quite quickly. Like, it's definitely like you train your brain to kind of I don't know, just to learn the lines quicker. But then there's like some techniques, but I don't think, like, in general, it's probably like our brain is it functions pretty well, especially like with people who are still around our age. At least, like, you learn stuff quicker than you think, and memorizing stuff is actually, well, I think it's, even without any techniques, it isn't that difficult. I mean, like you can try it at home, like take a script and then take a page and try to memorize it and see what happens. But then again, I mean, obviously there are techniques to it. Like, you don't have to use like mnemonics kind of things necessarily. Some do, and some are just like really gifted in it. Like, some actors I've worked with some actors who, like, literally they take a look at a page and they can like go after.
Really?
Like, that's like, some of them are like incredibly good at it. But then there's for me, like, the best way to learn lines and the most revealing way to work lines is I take a page or like a scene, and then I just take my phone and I record everyone else's. Like, this is what happens in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, remember the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio?
I actually haven't watched it.
You gotta watch it.
Is it worth the watch?
Definitely. I mean, Tarantino is great, and I mean, I think that's like one of his better ones. I mean, I think I really like the film.
I just remember people were mad at the portrayal of Bruce Lee, I think.
Yeah, well, people always get mad at something, but then again, I mean, everything about, like, you shouldn't probably consider that a very like legitimate historical thing about, like, this is the way Hollywood was back in the day. But it's there's definitely like a parody element or like satire element to it in a lot of it. But there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio is like literally like drinking martinis and like floating on a thing in his pool and listening to like a recording of other people's lines and doing his own, like, a little drunk. Like, in a sense, like, you hear like the other person's line, and then you have to respond
and then
to
you
it.
have to respond to it.
You gotta remember it, then you respond to it. You have like a certain time to do that, and then the recording keeps on playing, and then the other guy goes again, and then again it's your time to answer or do your line. And that happens in that film, and I was watching it and I was like, yeah, that's how I do it. Like, that's how all the good actors do it.
Well,
like,
you have a beer there with you.
You have a beer and you float in your pool. If you don't have a pool, you're probably just like you're at your, like, on your sofa, like, just a little drunk, trying to remember. If you can do it then you can do it on set. Like, I mean, but I mean, it is, for me, it's like picking it up by the ear, not necessarily my own, but if you do it in a sense that you hear the other people's lines, and then, because that reveals if you know it or not. Because if you do it like visually, like try to learn lines, then I don't think that works, because you can always like cheat from the corner of your eye, or then you have like visual image of it, but it has to be in like your body. Like, you can't have anything that helps you out with the text when you do it. Obviously, like on set, because it's and being on set is like a little, you get anxious every time. Like,
oh really? You never that anxiousness is always there?
Yeah, I mean, I call it the first shooting day panic. Like, it's like, because I'm like, whenever like my first day on a set is coming up and I know it's coming, I start getting so anxious. Like, I'm like super stressed out for like 2 weeks in advance. Like, my stomach is
Really?
Yeah, my stomach is like
Holy
terrible. And
shit,
it's like,
yeah.
it's really bad. But then after the first day, and well, nowadays it's even like when I go on set, like it just kind of goes away. Then I just work. And after that, it's all good. Like then it's
Right.
nothing, but just beforehand. But anyways, like if you have a feeling you don't know your lines 100%,
Then you probably don't know it.
then you don't know it. And then like if that's like a thought you have in your head and you walk on set and you're like, I don't know if I know this. And then you go in and you're a little bit anxious already. Like, it's one of those moments like, don't think about a white horse. You'll be thinking about a white horse all the time. Like that's going to stick in your head. It's going to go inside your like brain, that little thought, and it's going to make its nest there. And it's going to make sure that you're going to fuck up your lines. Like it's going to happen. So you really you gotta work the muscle, and you gotta rehearse your lines in a way that you can do it like this. I can give you a story.
Yeah, please. And try bring your mic a little closer if you can. You can just bring the whole. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I can give you a story. This is like an actor's nightmare that actually happened to me like last spring. I was working on a TV show, and this was my first day on that show.
Oh gosh.
It's like a second season of like a fairly popular TV show, and I watched it and I really liked it. And like everyone who works there, like all of the cast, like they're fucking great, and then really just nice people. And actors that I really, really like and I love working with. And some of them I'd never met. Like there's a few that I know really well. And so that's always, comforting. And a great director. And I walk in on set, and a couple of days prior, like I'd been going through my lines, and I get these things that you call like daily scripts, which is like you get sent a call sheet which like you can look at your call sheet and you see what you're doing and when. Like that's like this scene at this hour, and then you have that much of time in between, and then there's the other scene, and that's the scene number always there, and that's like a list of the people who you'll be working with and stuff like that.
See, that's already stressful for me in my head, but continue.
Yeah. You get a call sheet. So that's the call sheet, and with it you get like daily scripts. So then when you have the call sheet, you have another like file that's the daily scripts, like in correspondence to the scenes that you see from the call sheet. You have the text from the scenes that you'll be doing.
Oh shit, yeah.
So then you can take a look at the daily script, and you're like, okay, great. Like this is scene number 4, 5, 6. Let's go there. So then there's like daily scripts. They have like 3.5 pages of text, and then you're like, this is the scene we'll be working. Well, I'd read the script beforehand, obviously, and then I knew what we were going to be doing, and I got the daily scripts, and I was looking at them, and I was like, oh, they've cut because I have like a long scene there while I'm basically saying goodbye to like 5 other characters because I'm like leaving. Right. And they have like this emotional like little speeches here and there, and he's like, I'm off, see you guys later. Right. And then I'm like, well, you cut it way shorter. Like it used to be like 3.5 pages, and now it's like a page and a half. And I'm like, well, they must have thought that it's, maybe there's a good reason to it. And I didn't think anything about it because it's my first day on this set. I was like, maybe they do this all the time. So I was kind of like, well, no point in bothering that much. Like I'm not gonna learn like 3.5 pages of text if I can just do 1.5. So then I just did the 1.5, and I went on set, and it's the first scene that I'll be doing. And I walk in, and we're starting the rehearsal, and I'm like, so you cut down so you shortened the scene quite a bit. And then they're like, what? Because the daily scripts, like I can see that you've shortened it. Like it's only like 1.5 pages now. And they're like, no, it's still the same old scene. Like, really? Because I thought, and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't trust the daily scripts. And I'm like, that has never happened to me before on any show. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So 3.5 pages. And what I did was I just had like, does anybody have a copy of the script? And just as quickly as I can while we're rehearsing, I have the text in my hand. I'm just trying to. And at that point, I'm just kind of going back to like, don't worry, man. Like, you'll get through this. You're a professional. You've been doing this for quite a long time. You've been in a school for this. Like, this is the exact moment that you've been like training for. Like, you're in deep shit right now, but you're going to get through this. And then I just kind of did it. And I was like, yeah. And then I go here and like 5 really good actors and me who's like, fucking, I don't know the text. And I'm like going through it. And then we did it. And I was like, that actually went really well. Because in a sense, that was really great because because I couldn't memorize it like the exact way that it was written. So I had to kind of come up with my own way of saying it and stuff like that. And I knew the character and I knew everything. And I just felt quite free, actually. I was like, yeah, I can do this. So when we did the scene and kind of wrapped the day, I was like, I didn't shit my pants. I didn't die. Like I didn't freeze. Like I could actually function. I was like, yeah, I'm a grown up. I'm an actual actor. I'm a professional and I handled it like a pro. And when I went home, I was like, I gave myself like a good pat on the back and I was like, I survived. But
that's crazy. But I'm sure you felt like a sense of accomplishment after that. Like a sense of like, I got put in a difficult situation and I managed to push through.
Yeah, and I feel like, in a sense, it kind of reminded me of like theater school, because I feel like the way I kind of felt about theater school at the end of the day was, in a sense, that their whole method was to like take this group of like young people who want to be actors and just put them in like really shitty situations all the time with like not a lot of time to prepare and always performing to people you don't know and like doing stuff like this. And I kind of felt like after going through that for like 5 or 6 years, then I feel like it kind of gets you, like, you get a feeling of this. You feel like I got through all of those times that were like really difficult and messy and like just embarrassing, and I didn't die. So I feel like I'm gonna be able to survive, and I feel like that must be like their system.
Yeah,
because that's kind of what gives you that confidence. Like, you know that whatever the situation is, it's not like the worst situation you've ever been in as an actor.
Right.
So then you have like this resilience to it.
I guess that makes sense. I remember being young and my dream was to be an actor. Like, I used to watch tons of movies. And then in high school, I took drama. Yeah. And it was like the funnest class, right? But I went through a period of time where I hated speaking in front of more than like 5 people. Like, I genuinely had like an issue with that.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget, it was for, it was for some sort of project we were doing. And then I remember I had to do a monologue. It was like a group project. A lot of us were like saying a bunch of shit. And then it was my turn to do the monologue. And I remember it was in theater, and I stood up and it was my turn. I was like, and then the guy went down the hill and I went completely blank.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the lights. I remember specifically seeing the lights on my face.
Yeah.
Seeing that people were sitting there.
Yeah.
And knowing that I could not recall anything.
Wow.
That was easily the most embarrassing thing I've ever gone through. And then luckily, and then they taught us that if you, I don't know if it was even good now, but like they taught us that if you forget your words, just take a moment.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
And then, figure it out. But I stood there for a little too long.
I know.
And
everyone knows. You froze. You died on stage, man.
You could feel everyone was cringing. Yeah. Like, you could see. And you know when you can see people starting to...
just forgot his lines, man.
Yo, and then I think that completely dried out my desire to be an actor.
Oh, that's so sad.
At least on theater.
Because that's like the first thing that you have to have happen to you. I mean, those are the important moments, because that's how you learn. And then it's like, you didn't die. That was fucking embarrassing. But hey, guess what? Like, a lot of things in life are really embarrassing. But I have a friend who always says, like, embarrassment is not like a grown-up person's feeling. Like, you gotta get over it. Like, it doesn't help you out a lot in life. But then it's like, what you learn from that is like, next time, I'll know the text so well I won't forget. Like, whatever happens, and then you move on from there. But I feel like nowadays, because when we were kids, I take it you're like in your 30s.
Yes. Yeah. 32.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
A little younger than me.
Yeah.
I just turned 35.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's all right. It's all right. Not getting any younger. It's fucking depressing. No, I feel good. Anyways, but like when we were kids, I feel like, because if you want to entertain people, or you want to be out there and you want to be seen, or you want to perform somehow. Yeah. I feel like the options were quite limited in a sense. Like, you had like, these are the things you could go for. And then like acting is like you easily kind of go towards acting because it's, you know, you get to perform, but you don't have to be good at anything. I mean, it's like a really kind of, it's like a really clear direction to go into, as in like, well, you could be a musician or you can be an athlete maybe, or you can be this or that. But then there's something really intriguing about being an actor. But then again, I feel like nowadays you have so much more options. I mean, social media and
like, you're right.
You have your own platform nowadays, and you can do like, I feel like the younger generation now, like, is for a lot of kids, like when I was growing up, like kids like me now, I feel like for them, it's like, well, why should I be an actor if I can use my own platform and perform there, you know, write my own things? And because back in the day it was impossible. Like if you wanted to do like a sketch comedy show, you had to like go to a channel and then sell it to them and get some money and then make it. And then they have to like literally like just order and you got to deliver. But then now you can be like a 15-year-old kid
with a phone
and just start doing stuff with your friends. And if they're good, you can be like, yeah, let's just post these. And then you can have like a following in like a couple of years. And then suddenly it's like, well, you have like thousands of people who are, you know, watching your little funny videos and stuff like that. But that's like the cool thing about social media, because it's not, you know, run in the same like really strictly hierarchical.
I think you rocked that word. Yeah, that's
hierarchical. Hierarchical. That difficult word. Just you know, just erase it. Let's just bleep it in that one. But anyway, because it's like somehow, because it's, you know, you can do it all yourself. That's the cool thing.
But then like being on set and stuff and being a part of a project that is like multifaceted, where they're creating something big, when you know there's like in some cases millions of dollars in it, like the pressure must be kind of like, do you feel that pressure? Or is it kind of like, do you just kind of box it out? You're like, hey, I'm here doing my little part. And then,
well, I feel the pressure beforehand. Like, as I said, like I have the first day of shooting panic thing, like pre-shoot panic. Like that's when I feel the pressure, and I always feel a miscast, and I feel like they've made a huge mistake and I'm gonna fuck it up. Especially when I was younger. Maybe now not so much, but still, I mean, I just started this one that I'm shooting now. I started that a few weeks ago, and I was so fucking nervous before this one, and then I'm starting a new one next week, and I'm like already nervous about that one. And I feel like it doesn't really matter if it's big or small. I just always get the nerves and the jitters beforehand.
Right.
And I don't think it's, but obviously like the first times that I did like the real big ones, well, for me, like the real big ones, not like, you know,
which are some of those?
Like Vikings, Valhalla, and The Last Kingdom, and, you know, those ones, well, because those were the first ones. So when I walked in those sets, like I was really nervous because I didn't know what to expect, because I was like, how does this work? Because like in Finland, you don't get your own trailer, like you don't get anything like that. Like I was just even like how do you go to work? like how does your day start? Do you just stand there waiting? Does somebody come and get you? Like everything, like how it works, like everything that was new to me. So I was super nervous about it. But then when you like everything that happens between like, you know, action and cut, it's all the same. Like it doesn't matter how big it is, or like how many people work on the set, or like the day to day is actually pretty much the same. Like it's, you don't even notice. Like there's a lot of people, but then again, like once you're there for a, you know, a short period of time, then, you know, like start, okay, like, so this is the, you know, this is the key grip. I know that guy, and like that's the best boy. I know that guy, and that's the cinematographer. I know them, and then there's the DP. I know them, and that's the director, and that's like, and then you have like these normal relationships with them as you would on like a small set, and then you kind of understand that we're just people working. It doesn't matter how big the set is and stuff like that. I mean, but then again, the sets are different. I mean, and you sense it. Like if you have to go on a set that's like pressurized, like something has happened that has like pressurized the set, then that's like that's shitty because then you don't necessarily know why the atmosphere is what it is.
Can you give it like, what do you mean by, you mean like something bad happened before, like someone had an argument or?
Yeah, or maybe there's stress, or maybe things haven't gone according to plan on like previous days. And that kind of, you know, trickles down to the day that you're working and you don't know why it is like that. And you easily, because we're people, we easily read that situation through ourselves in a sense, like, am I doing something wrong? You know, like,
oh, right.
Those are like nasty situations. But then you just got to switch it off and kind of just be like, I'm just working.
Yeah.
You know, if it's weird, then just always go to work mode. Then you're just like, and then the only option is in a sense to kind of just use it. Like if there's emotion in you that comes naturally, that's maybe, you know, insecurity or like anxiousness or nervousness or even anger or something like that, then just take it and use it because it's, you know, that's free.
Yeah.
So then,
and then so because you always wanted to be an actor?
Yeah, I feel like I probably did because I started acting when I was 9 years old. So I was fairly young and I got exposed to it in like already at quite a young age because like when I was in school, I remember them, like there were a couple of projects that they were doing at our school, like elementary school. One was like a short film that they filmed at the school. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. And I was basically an extra on it. I was like one of the kids in a classroom.
Right.
But that was already like, I saw like there's cameras and they're filming and this is how they do this. Like, this is really interesting. And then they did a school play when I was 9, about to turn 10. And they did a school play and we had like auditions for it. Because it was like, there was like a role of the prince. And then I auditioned and then I got the part. And then, and then I did that and I was like, wow, this is like really fun. You don't have to be in class. That's one thing. And then when you talk, everyone has to listen. And it was like,
that's funny as shit, but it makes sense.
I don't know. When you're like 9 years old, you're like, this is the coolest shit. And you get to like, it's really active and you get to, you know, be around girls all the time. So that's really cool. So I guess I got kind of, you know, bitten by a bug, like when I did that one. So then I told my mom I want to be doing this, and she sent me to an art school in Oulu.
Yeah.
And then I started doing theater. And I did that until like my late teens. Yeah. I stopped for a while, focused on like drinking and doing sports. And realized that it's probably good for me to go
do that
back to the theater.
Because I kind of researched you. You've got a Wikipedia page, by the way. I thought that was kind of cool.
I don't update it, so I don't know what's in it. That's probably weird stuff.
But like, did you always want to go international in terms of your career, or were you focused on like what was happening in Finland?
Well, the thing is, like I got into like theater school, like actual theater school, like university degree kind of theater school when I was 19. That was 2009. So when I got in, like nobody was saying like they're gonna do some international gigs. Like you weren't allowed to say that out loud because because in Finland like nobody had done it. I mean, like Peter Frantzen, Pete was an awesome guy.
Yeah.
But like literally like he had moved to LA with his wife Irina Björklund, like, you know, years prior. And I think like the biggest gig at that point that Pete had, you know, at that time is like being a corpse in CSI. And then people were kind of like, the whole mood around like working internationally was kind of like, then you have to go to LA and then you can be a corpse in CSI, and then like people kind of laughed about it, but you weren't.
Oh, you mean allowed. He was an actual corpse, like he
had a small part in in a scene, and he was killed, and then he was a dead body, but people were like really shitty about it. People were like kind of laughing, but that's fucking dope.
Yo, I mean,
you had a part in CSI. That's awesome, bro.
CSI was like the shit.
Yeah, CSI was awesome. Down. I mean, that was good stuff. But still, I mean, if you said like, I'm probably going to work on some international projects, like that's my dream, people would be like, you're fucking out of your mind. Like,
but it is kind of funny when you say that, because I only realized that she said that he was a corpse in the. I can see why someone who doesn't know the industry at all could laugh at that.
Yeah.
But when you actually look at it, he probably got a nice little payday, and he was able to get his like.
Yeah, and if you look at Pete's career now, it's like, who's laughing now, eh?
It's true.
Like,
Is he the guy in Black Klansman?
No, that's Jasper, but they did Vikings together for a long time, like many seasons. But Pete's been on like, oh my God, in so many like international shows and films afterwards. He's done like so many, but like Wheel of Time and a bunch of films. Like
is he in Wheel of Time?
Yeah, he just did a few episodes. I mean,
I wonder which
he's done so many projects internationally. He's done really well for himself. But like, he started off as a corpse, but look at the guy now.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, but that was like, I think like the vibe around then was like, you were not allowed to say that you'd even dream of like doing something internationally. Right. So no, I didn't think about it. Maybe everyone has like this secret dream that they think about before they go to bed, that like, how cool would it be to have like a small part in a Hollywood film or something? But then that's like, really, that's your own private thing, and don't say it out loud.
What do you think that is? It seems like
it's also very Finnish.
Yeah, but I know, like when I was in Norway, I was speaking to this one guy. He was talking about like in Norway as well, there's this sort of vibe where you want everyone to kind of be equal. Yeah. And if someone's kind of low, you want to bring them up. But if someone kind of surpasses everyone else, there seems to be a bit of resentment or a sense of like, fuck this guy. Actually,
there's probably. I mean, it's probably I think it's like a cultural thing. Probably in some level, it's about you got to be humble and whatnot, and maybe that's like a thing maybe, but also before, like, if there's nobody who's done it before, then you're like really pessimistic about it. Like everyone's really pessimistic about it. And I think like, it's idealism in a sense, especially then, maybe that's changed, but that kind of idealism then is as like, maybe you're a singer or a songwriter and you're like, I'm going to make it globally. Back in the day, it used to be like, you're probably crazy. But nowadays, I think it's changed, because now if you're a songwriter in your 20s and you're like, well, I'm going to try to make it like globally on the global market, people are like, yeah, well, that's cool. I have your social media thing going on and stuff like that. And you're like, you've got good songs. And I don't think like people are shooting you down immediately nowadays if you say like, yeah, I'm dreaming of working internationally. You don't have to be a huge Hollywood star or like the biggest singer in the world, but like it is more realistic in a sense. Like, maybe you can, do a tour around Europe or maybe even like Northern America and whatever, have like small roles in a TV show somewhere else, maybe in like the UK or maybe even the States, or like big shows that are filmed in Europe, and maybe do something here and there. I mean, I think the world's changed so much now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because like I work a little bit in the music industry. Like I work for a company, we're building like this app and whatever. And it's so interesting looking at the music industry here in Finland, because it seems like some of the record labels obviously have quite a big monopoly over like a lot of the things here. Yeah. And it's so strange, because in South Africa, there was always space, like an area, whether it was radio stations or wherever, where they were constantly bringing new acts to kind of show the things that they were working on. They'll be interviewing like, upcoming artists or little festivals where there's these new artists and whatever. But in my experience here in Finland, unless I'm perhaps not seeing the full picture, I kind of get this vibe that there's like the festivals, a lot of the festivals that happen that are Finnish based, I can probably guess 5 of the names that are going to be playing there. Yeah. And it's the same in every festival. I'm not saying it's good or bad or whatever, but like, it's kind of like, it's just this vibe where it's like same sort of people, and the people will pay for the ticket all the time. They will sing the same songs. I'm just kind of like, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert. I don't want to shit on the media business or like the whole the radio or music business in Finland, but still, I mean, if you look at the most like the artists or bands who get the most like radio time in Finland, like if you look at them, and like most of them are Finnish, like
Yeah.
Finnish artists and Finnish bands, which is great. But then also at the same time, look at the big radio channels, like who owns them, and if they maybe, you know, maybe they own something else like music festivals as well. And,
True. Yeah,
and
I wouldn't
maybe-
be surprised.
And if there's like a company, let's just say that there is one, because there is one, but let's say that there is a company that owns the radio station, they own the record label, and they own the festival. So then
Right.
guess who are they? They're going to be booking their own artists and the ones that they want to, you know, and they're going to be playing their music. They're going to book them to the biggest festivals, and they're gonna, you know, because they own the whole industry, basically, like all the levels of it. So
and in the film industry here in Finland, what is your kind of view on it? Do you feel like are there because I think the last big Finnish movie that made waves internationally was what is it about the Winter War? What is
you know, the Unknown Soldier, or
but it has a name. It's what is it called for the Finnish spirit that name?
Sisu.
Sisu.
They're actually filming Sisu 2 in Tallinn at the
Oh,
moment.
really?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's official. Well, I
Right.
hope I'm not spoiling anything.
Just hit me up before I edit this, and I can cut it out if it's something.
They can shoot me, but it's I heard. I'm not sure.
Are you trying to get in there?
No, they're not going to hire me after this. It's I have some contract things going on.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have time, but I mean, I would love for them to call me, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not after this. Anyways.
Guys, you can hire me. I don't know if there was any black people back then, but
fuck it. I think that would work. We should do it. I'm gonna set you up with something. But yeah, I mean, that was a big thing. But I mean, for that budget, I mean, it did really well. I mean, it was a big budget for like Finnish film. But then again, and the good thing about that is what I'm really happy about is that like it's such a genre film. Like Jalmari Helander has never been afraid of like doing something that's like really genre. Like it's like let's do like a, because that's like an action thing, but like in a splatter kind of a sense. Like it really doesn't take itself seriously at all. If Quentin Tarantino's film shouldn't be watched as like historically accurate, then that one shouldn't be watched in that manner either. Right. But they've really gone to lengths about it. Like, it's like really fun. Like Sisu is super fun, but then because it's like the aesthetic of it and the way they've made it is, there's certain audiences in the world that love all those type of films. And they don't care where it was shot or who's done it or where it's been filmed or who's in it. They don't care. If it's a good film, they watch it. Like horror film freaks are like that, and like those kind of action film fans are like it. And like there's like a lot of those types of audiences. And in Finland, I feel like we've always been really scared of doing films like that or making films like that. We're always like, no, let's just stick with drama and we'll just do drama and then try to compete internationally because it's so good. But at the end of the day, we're competing against everyone all over the world who have like more money for screenwriting. They have more money for, you know, they have just bigger budgets and more money like everywhere. And then we're competing against that. We're like even competing against the Danes in the drama thing. Like it's really hard because they're so fucking good.
Yeah.
So then what if we just made good horror films and good like some good like genre films like horror and action and like stuff like that, or like crazy comedies. But when we look at the last 10 years, I feel that's also a thing that's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because we have like Heavier Trip is now coming out. Like I feel like that was like a comedy that did really well.
Heavier Trip? I don't think I've...
Heavy Trip. It's like
Heavy
film.
Trip.
Well, the first one is called Heavy Trip, and the one they're doing now is like Heavier Trip. But they've wrapped, and I think that film is like done. But it's gonna come out later.
Right.
And they did really well. I'm pretty sure this one is gonna do pretty well as well. But that's a comedy, like a crazy comedy. And then you have like horror films that have done pretty well, like The Twin, which was really big in like in South America apparently.
Right.
Then, but still, and Sisu obviously. But there's like a lot of films that are genre films that they've gotten the funding and they've made the film and it turned out great. And then it's like, make money abroad, which is, that's really good. That's a great direction to be going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool because like I think quite a lot about I believe that like the Finland has quite a lot to offer if it kind of allowed itself to be free to try and offer some of those things a lot of the time. I find like with what you were explaining, how it seems like even a lot of artists, like I'll speak to some people who are like they speak English pretty well. They sing in English, but then they're too afraid to release music in English. And it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong if you want your career to just be here in Finland.
Yeah.
That's completely fine. But there is this hesitancy to be like, when you look at Sweden in comparison, like, yo, they're not afraid. I mean, they do Swedish films and Swedish music, but there's also a burgeoning, there's also an international market there.
I mean, if you think about like music in Sweden, it's like they're like the third biggest like exporter of music in Europe, which is incredible. Like that business has been so big for such a long time, like even, ABBA and everything. But even like think about film, like you think about Bergman and you think like, they have such a long tradition of like just really great artists and not being afraid of even doing things like Bergman's films, man. Nobody spoke English in those films. The guy fucking made it. I mean, but it's so different. I mean, I feel like we have like this inherent sense of, I don't know, insecurity about everything and not believing in our own talents and always thinking that nobody's going to be interested in our stuff and nobody's going to care. I think that's changing, but it's still like really, it's deeply rooted in, the Finnish, I don't know, mindset.
Yeah.
And how you look at things is like, well, I'm just a small boy from northern Finland. Nobody cares about me or what I have to say about the world. And we don't necessarily, and this is all just really boring. And we don't see anything back home as like exotic or interesting or like, and it's quite sad, especially when you bring up the comparison between the Swedes, which always, it's always a stab in the heart.
Finns get quite offended by any comparison.
Yeah, because it's true. Like they don't give a shit. They're like, I mean, obviously they have more money than us. They have old money and whatever. But I mean, still, like they don't have that kind of weird, that weird thing that just makes us just belittle ourselves all the time. But then I hope it changes, and I feel that it changes. But we're at the end of the day, like we are an island.
Yeah,
like this is an island.
It is
because at the end of the day, like you get like in northern, like if you want to go drive your car somewhere, then the only place you get to is like either northern Sweden or northern Norway, and then Russia. Please don't go. and then it's like then there's the Gulf, so you gotta take the ferry.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, like we are an island, like we're just like really kind of desolate place. So because even the Swedes, like when you're there, it's like they probably feel that they're part of Europe in a sense, and we're just this really place where like just a huge island somewhere next to Russia.
Yeah,
in a sense. But I mean, we need to get over this way of thinking. We need to understand our own potential, like internationally, and just stop belittling ourselves all the time. That's probably the first thing to do. It's not that easy with this government though, but maybe in like the long run.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I know we spoke a little bit about it earlier, but like some of the money that goes towards culture and stuff has kind of been taken away a little bit. I always find it quite intriguing that when budget cuts are being done, the first thing they go for is the cultural aspect of things, which I think it's counterintuitive, but I think it should be the opposite. I think culture plays such a big part in creating, like, inspiring people and kind of creating that energy in a place.
Yeah, and it's just what they always done. Like all the right-wing parties that are usually the first one doing their they have the austerity politics that they want to use. They always want budget cuts. They want to just make government, just less regulation and less government power and just smaller budgets for governments, just and have that's the ideological essence of it, is just to have the market running everything. I mean, at the end of the day, like that is the core of it, like the business thinking behind it. But they never think of culture as business, which is a huge problem, because obviously they come from different types of backgrounds, and none of them probably from like within the culture world or the business is like, they just don't want to understand that this is a business as well. Let's say like Finland, which is like a really like a auto market kind of a country. Like we go to shopping malls and like big Prismas and whatever. We take our car when we drive there, and then we shop there and we drive our cars back home. If you take everything that's like cultural, you take all of that away from the city centers. You take it all away. Why would people ever go there?
True.
And like everything that affects is especially like the beautiful bond between like, restaurant business and the film and theater business. Like, for instance, like nobody wants to go to the city center anymore if they don't have anything that brings people in the city centers. Like,
you're right. Yeah.
You gotta have like cinemas and theaters and concerts, and you gotta have all of that stuff so people could get in. And like, how many people go on a date to, like, they want to go see a film? If they go out on a date or like just have fun with their friends, they go to the theater, or they want to see a film or a concert. And what do they do while they do that? They're going to drink and eat, and they might have like dinner afterwards or before, or do something else, or like whatever. And if like all the budget cuts are also going to affect like the economy around like those cultural things. Yeah. And that's like one thing that they never want to like look at, and then they want to face the music in that sense. But then there's other issues, which is like, one of them is like just an ideological weird thing, which is like what's the racist party in English again? The True Finns? Are they True Finns anymore?
Yeah, maybe. Perhaps.
Yeah.
But
they're like really all of, like their whole thing is Finnish culture.
Right.
But it's like really weird that's what they say, but every time that they have any power over anything, what they want to do is take all the money away from like the people who are, working in Finnish culture.
Right.
Like, they don't give a shit. Like they just, that's such a smokescreen.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think I understand what you mean. And I haven't spent a lot of time looking into the new government and all that sort of stuff. I've just kind of been reading some things here and there. But it's so interesting, like when we're talking about culture, because you're talking about the connection between the restaurant industry and the film industry. But I feel like there's also an intangible benefit to the country.
Yeah, obviously.
In terms of like how people get inspired. People getting inspired. Like if there's like a bunch of Finnish films coming out that are creative and getting getting a lot of attention, imagine what it does to younger generation people who are like, oh, cool. Maybe there's a budding director here who just needed to watch something and get inspired by that, right?
I mean, even if you get like a production, like a big global production that's even filming in Finland, and people see Finland in a film and they think like, wow, that's beautiful. I wonder where that is. Well, that's in Finland. Oh, that's Finland. Yeah. That's Finnish Lapland. Ooh, I would love to go there. And then suddenly you can see, we're a small nation. You see those kinds of things actually affect them. If we would get Game of Thrones type of a TV series to be filming in Lapland, like millions of people would watch it and be like, wow, I want to go there. And they would find out and they would travel to Lapland. And you know how much money that is. I mean, that's like things like that. Or like if we make a film or like a TV show that becomes like a huge phenomenon globally, could happen.
Yeah.
And how much that would affect our economy in so many ways, like tourism wise and stuff like that, but also like just culturally, like that would give us such a boost, nationally. And with like, with small countries, it's always about like this global branding thing, right?
Dude, I've made this argument so often because like when looking at some of the cuts that are happening and hearing some of the discussion around immigration and all that sort of stuff, like there's an aspect of it I can understand. I can sit down with someone and kind of go through like when it comes to humanitarian immigration or something and like, okay, we need to create better structures to be able to integrate people better, blah, blah. I can understand that discussion being done in that way. But when it comes to in a completely different way when the branding of the country begins to come across as not only like we don't want professionals, basically. For me, it's just, it's some of the dumbest way of viewing it, because you're like, number one, you're bringing professionals from across the world who have been educated, fed, brought up by a completely different country where they've got all the skills now. That is so cheap for the country, right? They just arrive and they can do whatever. And for me, it's just like, and I talk about the branding thing. I'm like, bro, you don't want the branding of Finland to be that, you know what, we're going to make it very difficult for you as a professional to come and work here. Like, for me, it's just, I don't know.
I just read this study that like, there's like a study that kind of ranks countries in order and regarding how like immigrants, like highly skilled immigrants who work in, you know, technology or whatever, you know, like, but educated immigrants, and it's like ranked in a sense, like how do they view like how much the country itself where they live in appreciates them and their skill sets. And like Finland still a couple of years ago used to be quite high up in the ranking. Now I think it's like a ranking of like 40 countries, and we're like number 38, like right next to like countries like Turkey. And it's like, but I mean, it's like these laws, like what's the one that they passed now, which is like, if you get fired or you lose your job, and if you don't get another one within like 6 months, you're gonna be like deported or something. Like that's so fucking
did
racist
they pass
and
it,
weird.
or was it?
I don't know, or if that's a plan, or if they already passed it. It doesn't even matter in that branding kind of sense. It doesn't matter if they passed it or not, because if it's out there in the media, that affects the branding, that affects the image that people have about Finland. Because the fact is, we are competing against other EU countries of these people that are like highly skilled and motivated to work abroad. And then we have to bring in, like, because we won't survive as a country without them. Like then it's game over, because like we don't have, I mean, people are getting old, man. Like there's not enough young people in this country that are educated enough to do all the, like fill those positions that we need to have filled to be able to kind of sustain, you know, this level of whatever this is. But anyways, I mean, so that's super sad that we're just shooting ourselves in the foot by being racist and stupid, and like not understanding that if I'm a guy who comes from, well, wherever, like somewhere in Asia, let's say, and then I'm an engineer, and then I'm like, well, I'm gonna move to Europe to work, and I'm gonna see what's there. Okay, that's that country, and there's that, and there's that. Why would they want to go to Finland with these types of like rules and regulations and just laws, and then just this kind of atmosphere, when they can go to any other EU country?
It's kind of an, you know, it's kind of an interesting case when you actually think about it, because all across Europe now, there is becoming more and more of a negative view on immigration, asylum-seeking immigration mostly. And for certain countries, like you look at Sweden, and in some cases Denmark, in certain areas like where like Sweden now has no-go zones and all that sort of shit. And a lot of those things were done because governments did not create adequate pathways to, help integrate people. So then, and, Finland just looks at Sweden and they're like, yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
But I think we sometimes can do a disservice because a lot of the time I try and understand certain aspects of it. I'm like, okay, I can understand that. But it just seems like the laws that they try and pass, they're not helping that situation specifically.
No, and it's
fucking things up for,
man.
it's fucking things up for another issue. Yeah. Right?
That's also like, that's the problem with politics. I mean, it's always been, but especially nowadays with, the right-wing rising and the populism that's going on everywhere in the world globally. But like the short-sighted way of doing politics that all the populistic parties are doing
Yep.
Like, but that's what it leads to, because I feel like a lot of them probably know that this isn't the right way to handle these situations. Like, they know that there is a difference, and they know that this isn't good for, the well-being of our country in the long term. But then they're like, well, but this is politics, man. Like, they're just playing the game.
know.
Like, that's we got to show
so
our supporters
silly.
that they were doing this kind of thing.
And I think that's the biggest thing, especially with this new coalition government, is that they are, in my estimation, doing things to appear like they are pleasing their voters.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of like, despite the fact that the way I kind of view it is like, you're trying to get something on this side of the wall, like a jar, right? Yeah. And you've got a ladder, but you put the ladder on the opposite side of the wall, and you climb the ladder and you're like, hey, look, I'm climbing the ladder, but it's not sorting out the actual issue, which is on this side.
Yeah.
And this is actually just damaging the country. And I don't know, I just like, when it comes to politics sometimes, I'm just like, bro, two things can be true at once. And that's with life, right?
Yeah.
It could be that, when we bring in humanitarian immigration, perhaps, true. Perhaps some of it doesn't need to be limited. Perhaps we need to create more services to integrate people, right? Yeah. But Finland needs professionals. Like, we really need it. People are getting old. Finland is becoming less and less competitive on the international stage. It's like, bro, what are you doing?
I know, right?
Like,
but it's I don't know. I'm sorry that this has become so political. It's
no,
I'm not even like, I don't even find myself that political anymore. I try to like steer away from all of that shit just because it like, it gives me a headache.
Yeah.
And I try to kind of focus on other things. But then I just want to give you an example of this.
Yeah.
This is probably like, once this government is done with, maybe we can breathe again for a little bit. But this fucking thing, like this, like within my line of work, like how I look at this, sometimes I feel like those guys are allergic to money. Like, this is the situation. So we have this tax rebate kind of system that we implemented in Finland like 10 years ago. That's like a really important system for us to be able to have international projects coming over and filming in Finland.
Right.
And the point is, like, if a production comes to Finland and spends more than, let's say, €1 million, then they can get a tax rebate that's like 20%, maybe more than 20%. I can't remember the exact number nowadays. But they get that money back after they've shown that they have spent more than $1 million here in Finland and left that money here. So then they can get like, a quarter of it back.
Right.
And that's the basic system. They have the system everywhere, in Estonia, in Lithuania, in Norway. They're just putting it in Sweden, that's a big concern for us. Well, we got that. There was a lot of lobbying thing being done for years before we actually got it here in Finland. And that happened some years ago. But now with this new government is that they decided, was it last year, that they decided that we're just going to take that system out.
Really?
Yes. And this is like after like we've gotten like big shows filming. Yeah, that's a lot of rain.
No.
That's scary lot of rain.
What the hell?
Yeah, I cycled here. I'm fucked. But anyways, so they decided to cut that money, like just to not have it anymore. And that's
Did they give a reason, or?
Well, no. Apparently, there's no reason, because it doesn't make any sense, because it's not the same kind of money that. There must have been a mistake, or like they just don't understand, or then it was like highly ideologically political or personal or on some level.
Yeah.
Because that money isn't like the type of money that you give to like a theater. You're like, because they're gonna use that money to be able to support their own system, and that goes into like people's salaries, and that goes into the ticket prices and whatever, and that's just that kind of support.
Right.
It's a different thing, because it's the only way that we get that tax rebate is when we get somebody to spend $1 million here. You get 750,000 euro for it. It's not like, and if you take that away, that rebate, there's no international projects coming here anymore. And this is just after we've had like a few big, but on a Finnish scale, like big international movies like that were filmed here. The COVID was actually in a sense, in an international, filming business kind of a sense for Finland, it was actually pretty good because some productions had to come over to Finland because we had like a good situation with Corona.
Right.
So they decided to come here because it's like good infrastructure, it's relatively safe and stuff, and they could work the COVID regulations. So then we had like a really good momentum going on there. We got a big Apple show filming in Lapland. They had some issues, but still got their money at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, I heard some people complaining about that.
Yeah, that was actually quite fucked. Let's not go deep into that. But still, I mean, that was but people got paid eventually. But that was a lot of money, and there's been like a steady flow of like bigger and bigger projects that have been coming over to Finland and filming here. We have a few really good things. One of them is like Lapland. You get snow for half the year.
Right.
And there's like really like we can actually compete, but we can't compete in the international market if we don't have the tax rebate. Because guess what? If we don't have it, they're going to be like, well, we can go to Iceland, we can go to Norway, we can go to any of the Baltic countries that have them, and they're actually even like better than the ones that we had implemented like earlier.
Right.
But that's the kind of, that's the short-sightedness, and also just not giving a damn about like smaller industries, because it's all about the big money.
Right.
I feel like it's, and that's depressing, because like we've been working for years to have systems like that, and then they're just going to be taken away from us in the same sense, like this is just, this is going to help save the governmental money. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like instead of you being, millions of euros, like turning in millions of euros of profit, you'll now get nothing.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing some of the political aspects from a different industry, because sometimes when I listen to people talk about politics, they talk in general terms, but you never get to see how it affects selective industries exactly. And it's really interesting because I can't see an argument against that.
Yeah,
like that doesn't make that much sense in general. But I think it's generally like a huge thing happening all over right now. I think like Finland, from like, certain people, maybe they want to make sure that the Finnish culture is preserved and whatever. So they've got it in their minds that when they think of immigration, they think of what, like, when was it, 2005 or something, with the whole Syrian refugee kind of thing that happened. When was that? Sweden? Was that later?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I think people. I think people have that sort of idea when they think of it. When in fact, there is no way a country saves more money than those sort of things, bringing in international money, international talent. I've been living here for quite a while, and I love this place. I love Finnish culture. In fact, I feel like Finland owes me money. I don't know how many people are probably brought to this bloody country.
Yeah, man.
But and I can understand all of that, but I don't know. I feel like you can have a good balance. Like you make it easy for people to come here legally. You make it attractive for professionals to come and bring their skills here. Finnish people are just not having enough kids. Like, it's just like the birth rates are going down. People are getting older.
Yeah.
It's just the fact of the matter.
I mean, it's not like rocket science. No. It's not like very complicated math. If you look at the generations born after the wars, they're the big generations. They're getting old. They're going to retire. And with like it's just, there's no outcome for this that's like really great if you look at the numbers. And the only solution is like, we need to get international, and we need to do it quick.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we circle back to like the mind of the Finnish mindset of like belittling ourselves and always like this, and that we're an island, but this is the type of thinking, like this is the problem.
Right.
Like our thought processes are so like nationally centered, in a sense that we live in this dream world. I think this is probably a global issue as well, like within like Western countries, where they like tend to kind of think backwards into a time that's never gonna, exist again. But it's like, because we belittle ourselves and we just think like we can just be here, all the Finnish people together, we can just be here and strive and work harder and we'll be okay. And that's just, you gotta face the music, man. Like, look in the mirror. Like, it's not gonna come back. It's 2024, about to be 2025, by the way, which is fucking scary. But
that is insane, yeah.
But I mean, times are changing. They've already changed. Everything's changing. Like, technology is changing. Like, there's more than 8 billion people in the world, and we have a problem with, there's not enough working people to support this system. Like, that's and especially like highly educated working people. Yeah. Because there's positions that we just cannot fill with Finnish workforce.
Yeah. I mean, in this we definitely agree. Like, I think that the posturing of the Finnish government in this regard, like, I'm not sure if that law has been implemented yet. I know it was still, but
even the thing is, like, when you talk about it, like, because that's also the problem. This is the branding thing. Like, it doesn't really matter. This is the same thing also, by the way, with the tax rebate, because they took it away and then put it back in. And now I don't think that they still have it for next year yet, but it's probably going to come in again. But the problem isn't what's being passed and what's not being passed. The problem is the public discussion of it.
Yeah.
Because when you put those stories out and you know that these are things that are being like seriously discussed in the public and thought that this might be a great idea, even if it's not even it's passed or not, it's already damaged the brand. And with Finnish, like, because it's the same thing with our tax rebate thing. Like, it doesn't matter that they finally put it back into like the budget in the last minute and then it's there again. The problem is that the big players, like the big productions that spend like tens of millions of dollars on a budget, they're going to be looking at Finland going like, ooh, they might actually not have the tax rebate system for next year. Probably, but not 100% sure. If it's not 100% sure, they're not going to take a chance. They're going to go somewhere else where it is 100% sure. Like, I mean, the damage has already been done. And that's the same thing with, the law, if it's passed or not, but it's been discussed and that's already damaged the brand.
Yeah, I feel like Finland maybe needs a branding coordinator.
Yeah, man.
Like
that's
someone
what
who's
it seems like.
I guess in essence, that's what the government is, right? Yeah. Hey, Finnish government, if you need help, just let us know. Like, to be able to kind of see, like, if we bring this to the forefront, like that law in particular, I won't lie, I sat down, I read as much about it as I could, and I still came away from it scratching my head.
Yeah.
I couldn't see, okay, if we were discussing, okay, we bringing too many asylum seekers in one go and we're unable to help them all together or whatever, okay, we can have a kind of discussion about that and see what's going on. But with this in particular, I sat there, I read a bunch of things and I could not understand. In fact, if you take a normal Finnish kid, right?
Yeah.
He's born, grows up here, goes to school, does whatever, and only probably starts working properly in his 20s with getting actual money where he can pay taxes and whatever. If you try and calculate how much money the government used in all that time, right? And then you take someone on this side who's from somewhere else on the planet, right?
Yeah.
A very educated whatever, and then they come here, you could probably get them a place, a nice place to stay easily, give them some great tax benefits and all that sort of shit and whatever. And you would be saving so much because that person will start working, paying taxes, like especially if he's earning north of like, I don't know, 80K a year or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
and that's the type of people that they were trying to get in. Like, I mean, because they've like university degree people who are like engineers and who are like really brilliant minds, or like, and also obviously people who work in healthcare and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, I mean, that's the whole point of it. I mean, Yeah.
Because you can still do that. You can still promote Finnish values, Finnish culture. You can still do that. And people who come here, who enjoy a place, usually like to try and integrate into a place and enjoy it and that sort of stuff. Like you can still have that. Like people are like, oh, language, whatever. Hey, how about, I find it really hard to find free Finnish lessons at all. Like you kind of have to, like it's kind of, it's a bit of a mission. Yeah.
The language thing is always, it's so difficult, but it's like the
Yeah, it
language
is a
thing is like
tricky thing,
everywhere, like everything's like, there's no Western country that can like just close the borders and be like, we're just gonna like, this is, the language is not gonna change. And we're just, well, actually Icelandic. Well, but that's a little bit of a different thing. They're in the middle of the Atlantic and they basically speak Old Norse, and it's been like a long project. But like languages change. Like that's what happens to languages. Like like the Finnish I speak now is a little bit different than it was like 100 years ago. Like it's just
true.
That's what happens to languages. And the world is so much more global and open now, and people travel way more and move abroad and live abroad and work abroad. And then they might learn that language or not. They might speak English, but at the end of the day, I mean, languages change. I mean, it's the essence of a language. The whole point of it is like for us to be able to communicate with words. Like I have a thought in my head and I need you to understand, and I have to use words
exactly.
to have it.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a very practical thing, language itself. It would be really weird for us to kind of think about language in a sense that it's something that never changes when the world around changes. Obviously, languages change. And like it's really sad, and we have to do whatever we can to support it. But as long as like languages don't disappear, because that kills culture.
Yeah, I mean that's where I kind of stand on it. I'm kind of like I completely get what you're saying, and I agree with that. I also think that if Finland just made it easier for someone who comes here to be able to learn, little things like that, I think go a long way. How about the city starts offering free language? I know if you arrive here within the first 3 years, you might be able to get free lessons, but then you have to go full time. And, that's really difficult for a lot of people. Like you move your family, and then what, you're going to spend 5 days a week going to lessons. And like if they just made things a little bit easier, it could happen. I'm just saying, like, if you just give the options, that's it. But now it just feels like you have to drop a bunch of cash to be able to study. Actually, I haven't looked into it as much, but I remember there are certain institutions that can offer a bit of language lessons, whatever. And I think it's cool. I think the Finnish language is a very interesting language. It's unlike any other. And there's a lot of culture packed into it. I used to hate it, if I'm honest. But now I'm kind of like, it's actually dope, because my girlfriend's dad doesn't speak English. And then so now I'm like, okay, I need to get this Finnish.
But that's because that's the thing. Like people here speak really good English, that's great. I mean, that's awesome, because I mean, it would be kind of sad if we wouldn't, because otherwise, it's a short way that you can, go with just Finnish. But then, the thing about that is like, I've got a few friends like who've moved here from like France and the UK and stuff like that, and it's like it's just so easy to just speak English.
I know.
Like, it's just like there's really not much like motivation to it, just because like everyone speaks such good English, and that is really great. But I mean, it really, like, you really have to have like a lot of motivation.
And I'm not the best defender. Like, people watching this probably right now, like, the brother can't even speak Finnish anyway. But like, I'm not the greatest defender in terms of, if you're looking at my personal life, but I can step back and understand why one might think that it's definitely important. Like, for example, in Norway, when I went to visit, I only went there for a couple of days. But one thing I noticed is most people of different shades and color and whatever just easily started speaking Norwegian. And then it was like, I mean, there were certain times where there's like a sign, and I'm like, bro, I don't know where's the English. I at least need to know where I need to go. But at the same time, I'm like, I am in Norway. So I kind of expect that. So I feel like I'm straddling two lines. I'm like, I like the convenience of being able to speak English here. And because of my work, I haven't really needed to push to learn Finnish.
Yeah.
Because most of the people talk English. But at the same time, because I'm thinking like, when I have kids and then have to take them through the schooling system and whatever, I think it would be good for me to be able to speak Finnish. Like, you know, so I don't know.
It doesn't sound too bad, but that's a good thing about the branding and that stuff. I mean, because that's the thing we can compete with is like you come here, we've got great infrastructure, like things work, and everyone speaks English, basically everyone. True. Even my parents speak English. They speak pretty good English.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I mean, it's like, but that's a thing we can like that's something we can use because not in all the countries like everyone speaks fairly good English. Not necessarily.
No, it's true. To change something I wanted to ask you about is so when did you get married?
Oh yeah, last summer.
Congratulations!
Yeah, boom.
Yeah, what was that whole? What was all of that like? Like when did you guys meet? It's Alma.
Alma is Alma Hatanen, who's actually also a podcaster and she's a radio host and she's hosted some television shows and well, she's like a media professional.
Yeah, I've seen her in many different places. Yeah,
she's very cool. Yeah, so we got married. We got married last July, but just a few months ago, we met each other. We met in 2015. Started dating 2016. So it's been 8.5 years.
Wow,
more than 8.5
long?
years. Yeah, quite a long time. So so I think like it was probably so we got engaged like a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, and so we just decided to, do the deed, get it over and done with. It was lovely. It was great.
I was chatting to my mother, and we were talking about like marriage and all these sort of things or whatever, and then she was just like, "Why do people wait so long?" Yeah. Like if you know you want to be with this person, what is the I mean, because I was once in the same mindset, right? Like, you see how things kind of go, and then but it is kind of an intriguing question, right? Like, what is it about getting married that we kind of get cold feet about, or are willing to be like, oh.
I think one of the reasons is that it's incredibly expensive. Like that is like literally one of the reasons because first of all, time goes by incredibly quickly. Like I just realized like when we hit our like 6-year anniversary, I was just like, what? Like 6 years? I'm pretty confident it's like 2, maybe max 3, but it was 6. So then that just happens really quickly. But then like getting married is like once we started kind of planning it and what to do and asking around and just found out that getting married, it's like the numbers are crazy. But I'm like, we went to like good friends of ours wedding and it was really great and lovely. Not huge, but like a nice size and all of that. And we asked how much was it? And they told us like, well, we did quite a bit ourselves so we could, save a lot of money. So that was only like 25K. And I was like, 25K?
Yo, that's wild.
That's a lot of
that's
money.
That's crazy.
And like we were like, we can't do with like a small wedding. Like we have to have like a bunch of people because like we know a lot of people and we can't leave people out and we have to have everyone included. And we're like stressing about it. And we just decided at the end of the day just to go to the ministry, get like, just the quick checkout, like the quick thing like, done, like you just got married, congratulations, out the door. And then we just kind of set it up ourselves. We had a little picnic, like our friends helped us out quite a lot, like the maids and the bridesmaids and the best men like really helped us out and like set everything up for us, like a picnic at a park. And our friends from Helsinki came there after we'd gone and had dinner with both of our parents. We went to
did you tell them first? Did you ask? quote unquote permission.
Can we get married?
Yeah.
Like the old style. I had to go to her dad and ask.
Did you do that?
Permission? No, that would have been too weird. That would have been super weird. No, man. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I mean, probably somebody would think that it's like really romantic and like traditional, but I would just think that that's so weird. And I'm pretty confident he would have felt okay about it.
Right.
I didn't do that, but yeah. But we had dinner with the parents, and then we went to the picnic. We had the picnic for that evening. It was really nice. Maybe like just around like 40, 50 people were there.
Okay.
We went home and slept. And in the morning, we took like the bridesmaids and the best men, and we went to like a cottage, to our cottage.
Cool.
And that has like a camping site next to it with some like smaller cottages that we had rented out. So then we had like everyone there. There was like maybe, 10, bit more than 10 guests and us. And then we just spent the weekend at the cottage and then drove to northern Finland, to Oulu, left the dog there with my parents because I'm from Oulu.
Right.
And then we went to Hailuoto. They have this small music festival called Betrefolk, which is something that we basically go to every year, and our like friends from the north always come there. So then we continued, kind of wrapped up the whole wedding thing there, and then partied for like 3 days straight there. Kind of.
But that's pretty. I really like that you kind of broke the expectations of what it ought to be.
Yeah.
But 25K.
That's incredible. That's a lot of money. And we were like, hey, I mean, we're not rich. Like, we're far from it. And
Holy
like 25K,
shit.
like, but think about like taking that 20K and then just like save it.
And then just spending it.
Yeah, or like later, just have the honeymoon of your dreams. Like you can travel the world. Like you can do all over. Like you can do a year with that 20K.
Yo,
like that
is crazy. I think on the news or on Twitter or something, I remember seeing some rich couple. They used like 8 million or something for their wedding. I mean, I don't care how rich I am.
How can you use 8 million for your wedding? Did you buy an island?
They freaking had like the biggest entertainers and
yeah, of course, yeah, they had. Yeah, that's true.
And all this sort of stuff. Their food for the guests, like places for them to stay, and all that sort of. At that point, I'm like, is it even about the wedding anymore? Like,
no, fuck not. It's about status. But that's the thing. Like for me, like the saddest thing in my life would be like I've paid for like an artist to come to my wedding and perform like a song to me personally, but I don't even know the guy. I just paid him $1 million.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the saddest thing,
Yep.
like, because like one of the really lovely moments like about our wedding with Alma is like when we were at the music festival, one of our really good friends performed there and we were at the gig. And then in between like the set, he took a moment to kind of congratulate us for getting married and then got everyone to like do 3 hoorays. Right. Because we had just gotten married. And that was like super touching. I got so emotional over that.
That's awesome.
And it's like, and that was, that's like beautiful. But then paying that same guy $1 million, not knowing him.
You literally got it for almost free.
To the wedding. And then he would just be like, hello, you random people. This song celebrates your love for each other. I've never seen you in my life. And here we go. And that's isn't that kind of weird though? Like
that is kind of weird, yeah.
Like, if like your friend who is not like a famous artist, but who knows how to play the guitar and sings okay, like if he would come in for free and then just sing a little happy, great to have you guys in my life song, then I mean that's really touching and beautiful. I feel like it's just so weird to have like a random person do it, like you're Justin Timberlake for $1 million.
Yeah, I now that you say it like that, that is kind of strange. And like, what is how are you finding marriage life? Is it any different?
It's not different at all. I mean, I'm getting used to saying my wife, and when I feel very grown up about it, like every time I say my wife, and she does the same when she says I'm her husband, and it's very like I think it's beautiful and it's really nice, and
yeah,
but nothing's changed, like nothing.
Same joys, same arguments, same loves, same.
And yeah, everything's the same, and it's like really day to day. And I love her very much and dearly, and we've been together for such a long time, and we're literally like each other's best friends. And I love him to death, love her to death.
Yeah, got you.
And so it's nothing's really changed.
Yeah,
but also maybe the only thing, maybe it's just like really concrete now, like it's really set in stone now. It's like really like we are married now, and this is for the long term, like for reals, and it's like really deepened our relationship in a sense. And we've like really had like, we've always been really good at communicating, but I feel like after this summer, I think like our communications is even better than it's ever been. And
really,
I can highly recommend with the right person.
Yeah,
like,
no,
really,
for sure.
Yeah, so but we're not very traditional in any sense. Like our relationship is not the most traditional.
Right.
Like, so maybe it's different for some people anyways, but for me personally, it's been lovely.
Yeah, I mean, that's really awesome. And I'm sure I said congratulations, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Something myself and my girlfriend actually spoke about because she's a dancer and a musician as well. And obviously I do a bunch of this sort of stuff. And we're kind of joking. We're like, because she had this thing where we were talking about like, if she had to do a dance, but with another guy, in a way that was quite sexual.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Right,
yeah.
That sort of stuff, and we're kind of talking about that, like just kind of personally seeing where we were on that sort of thing. Yeah. And then we're also talking about what if I was an actor?
Yeah.
Right, and then I had to do like some scene. Right.
Yeah.
With
like, your tongue in somebody else's throat and
that sort of stuff, or even simulate a sex scene, or even just being naked with someone or something like that. Right. Like where is that something you guys have ever spoken about? Or
we've had that talk, but I think like that's also probably one of the reasons that like why actors tend to marry each other. But I just don't want to.
Some can be kind of
but we had that talk. I think that was like fairly early in our relationship, maybe somewhere around 2017, because I was about to go in, and I did like, I think that was like a music video or something, and then I had to do quite a bit of kissing with this other actor, and then we had that talk, and I remember Alma being like, she found it quite weird in the beginning. Like we had to have like a talk, and I had to. Funny that she's a dancer, because I use the dancing metaphor. Like for me, when I'm on set or like when I'm working,
right,
it's the same thing as dancing, because it's like it's just choreography. The camera is gonna be there, you're gonna be here. It's very technical. It's intimate, but acting is always intimate. Like even if you're not kissing, it's like you have to connect. You have to connect on a deeper level. If you're playing lovers, you really have to connect. I mean, I'd rather you connect on a deep level, because then it kind of comes out of you naturally, and then that's great. But like the kissing itself and sex scenes are so much like choreography. It's so technical because it's actually really hard. Like for instance, like when you kiss another person on camera. When your faces touch like this, it doesn't look like anything. It's just like a mush. So then when you kiss on camera, it's always better to kind of release and go back again and release, and then just keep staring each other in the eye, and then maybe go back in for a kiss, because that just looks better on camera, because usually you're on profile. Right. And if you're on profile and you have two faces just like
then it looks
together like this, on shot, it doesn't look like anything.
Like that kiss scene in the last Harry Potter films between Ron and Hermione. I don't know if you ever...
I feel like that should be illegal. There's something a little bit wrong there.
Yeah, and it looked quite terrible. But yeah, that's kind of interesting, because I know for me personally, and obviously, and for my girlfriend Emmy as well, like she was just like, for her to do that, she that's a line for her that she doesn't want to cross on her side. Like in terms of like if Chris Brown called her and was like, hey, come dance with me, and like do some of those.
Well, I can imagine like reasons for not like dancing with Chris Brown, if you know what I'm saying. But like it's wife beater. But it's but I mean, surely you would have to be like, hey, like it's that you should maybe just. I think you should go in and do that. I think that's a huge possibility.
Yeah, because like the way our conversation kind of ended up going was in terms of like just saying what she felt about it.
Yeah.
And her view on it.
Yeah.
And I think for her, she just never wants to feel like she has to do anything she doesn't want to do ever. Like. For anything.
Is it like in regards to your relationship, or is it just something that she just doesn't want to do?
I think it's both things. I think on the one hand, she's always felt quite strongly about not doing anything that she feels that she just doesn't want to do. She totally believes that she can create her own pathways.
Yeah, in that sense, totally.
And do exactly what she wants in that aspect. And I think in terms of in our relationship as well, I think for her personally, she just was like, if it was the other way around, like if I was an actor or whatever, and I had to do like the sort of stuff you would do and whatever the case is, that would be kind of a little bit difficult for her in that sense. And luckily everything fits together so well, because for me, I'm like, that's not my vibe. Like, you know, some people can easily get intimate in that way because you're acting and it's part of that aspect of it, right? For me, it's just not like an itch I need to scratch, or it's not something I necessarily want to do or see the benefit of doing in that aspect. Where for me, I'm really motivated in like, I want to create my own pathways to do the things that I genuinely feel like really chill about. But I also understand that if you're in that industry, it's a very different sort of thing.
And right? I feel like that's all like, and it's all about like, when we fall in love with, sometimes we fall in love with people that, you know, in our minds doesn't make any sense and stuff like that. But in the grown-up world, like when you start a relationship, it's also like a rational decision on some level. When you start, when you decide you're going to build a life with this person, then it's all about like how can you adjust, or like how do you fit together?
Yeah, exactly.
And as an actor, it's always a package deal. I mean, it's the same thing with everyone. Like in a sense, I feel like when you choose a person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, you cannot be cherry picking.
No,
like
you can't
take like some here and some there, but that I want to get rid of, and that kind of that habit of theirs is not for my liking, so I want them to change and stuff like that. You can't do that. Like you have to take the person and love them as they are. Like that's just the fact, and that also goes with their, you know, way of life. Like, I mean, if they're an actor or like a media personality, like then, you know, that affects your day to day like a lot. Like that affects your schedules. That affects like what type of a life can you be living? Is it a 9-to-5 job, or is it something else? And does it require a lot of traveling? And does it like you know, there's so many questions, and then you have to take all of that into account and accept it if you want to be together. And that's the thing with like, as you know, an actor's life is sometimes, you know, it's a little bit different maybe from maybe a lot of the professions in the world, because not a lot of professionals face that, you know, situation in their working life where they're like, well, you guys need to seem like you've just met and you just, you know, you're deeply in love and now you're making love for the first time. Go. Like this is not something that happens very regularly in, you know, a lot of jobs. But that's something that we as actors have to deal with every now and then. Yeah,
that's so intriguing.
And it's but then I wouldn't want to be with a person who didn't find that acceptable, because that would really like, I would feel guilty about it, and I would like not feel good about. I couldn't. It would affect my work, and at the end of the day, like that's that's a burden that I wouldn't want to have on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Going into that life. I mean, it's just difficult.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of like relationships in that sense, where you see what the other person is like.
Yeah.
And then you decide whether you want the full package or not.
Yeah.
And of course, within the relationship, I think I forgot the word, but the Greeks have a word for, because there's romanticism as we view it, like Shakespeare and stuff, like where the person does no wrong ever, whatever. And then there's the Greek way. I forgot what the name of it is, but it basically references like iron sharpening iron. It's like educating one another within your bounds of being in a relationship, not changing the other person, whatever, but somehow just kind of bouncing off each other and finding your flow and that sort of stuff. And it's I find it really, really interesting in that aspect, because it's like people have such different experiences. Like as an actor, you've been exposed to a whole different way of being. Right? Because being an actor, I can imagine, because when you were talking about, hey, I understood the character, so I could figure out the lines, whatever, like those words, it's difficult for me to understand, because it's like, the character. What do you mean? Like I remember watching a thing about Training Day with Denzel Washington.
I love that role. That's such an awesome
and
character.
I was watching a video where they were comparing the script to what Denzel did.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I understood the character. So, but he enhanced the script by adding in a few ad libs and the way he acted. Like the line will be like, he'll kind of laugh and whatever. But in the actual thing, he laughs and he taps his guns and he kind of like leans forward and says something. It's like super interesting because he understood the character. Like, how do you learn to understand a character?
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, like, you got to bring yourself into it. Like, that's the case. Like, I think that's also an experience thing. Like, when you've been in the industry for long enough, then you kind of understand like the laws of the industry in a sense, like how it works, and like why you were cast. You also got to be able to watch yourself from the outside and see like, these are my qualities as an actor. This is what I bring to the table. And then at some point, you also have to be confident enough to kind of accept the fact that you've been cast for a reason and they want you to spice it up a little. Like sometimes when you do a supporting role and stuff like that, you got to kind of stick to the script and just do what you're told.
Right.
Like, that's sometimes the deal. But then sometimes when when the circumstances are right and when that's what's required, and almost always, like, you have to bring yourself into the equation, like not try to change yourself into what maybe the writer was thinking or the director was thinking, and just trust yourself as a professional and as an artist, in a sense, like you're the expert of this one narrow area inside this script, and that's this character, and you have to bring your own flavor to it, like your own style to it, like, because that's something that nobody could have thought about before you were brought in, but you have that chance to kind of, and that I feel is like kind of knowing the character, is taking what you can from the script, adjusting to it, kind of like figuring it out as an actor and as a person, like what speaks to you about it, and then figuring out what you can bring to the table. Was there something that maybe they didn't think about but you did, or something that inspired you, or maybe just a thought that you had? Like, for instance, like the first time I always read a script is like, that's like a holy situation to me, because that's when I get the images in my head for the first time. So then I want to do it in the right mindset and at the right moment, because in a really good situation, my intuition kicks like immediately. Right. And then when I get those like images in my head, like, wow, that's a great idea. And that's a great idea. They flow in really kind of naturally on the first reading, and then it takes a lot of reading after that to kind of enhance it. And then it might be like you have to be inside the like when you film it already, that's when it changes a lot, because everything affects you, like the other actors affect you, the set affects you, like the props affect you, like everything has an effect on you and how you work. But already before going on set, you have to have like some kind of an idea of the essence of the character, like what's the motivation and what's their, you know, how do they walk, how do they talk, how do they act, like and that I think is like knowing the character.
And I guess it depends on the director, right? Because I think Quentin Tarantino, he wants every word said exactly
how it's written.
It's written. And then you get others like Taika Waititi or whatever, who most of his stuff is just like improvised. You know,
it's also a genre question. Before, like for instance, like when you're doing like an epoch thing, like it's just because it's harder to ad lib that stuff like on the set, or maybe if it's like you have to be an expert on something and you're not actually, so then you just really have to stick to the scripts to get the script to get the facts right. So then but then again, like if it's like modern day, especially with comedy, I feel like, because comedy is so much about timing, and like things on paper aren't necessarily that funny, but the situation might be funny, so then feed off of that. Like then, because I find the funniest things are like when doing comedy, you're all just there kind of jamming together. So it's like if you want to do comedy but just stick to the script, then it's really hard. If it's modern day comedy, then just use everything you have, like, because something might happen in the moment and then that's funny. And the way they said that thing was actually funny, and something that they mumbled might be funny. And it's all about the rhythm and how it flows. And so if you start restricting actors in a sense of, we're doing comedy, but it has to be just the script, then it's, you know, you're losing a lot in that.
Yeah. And it's also, I find it so difficult. Like comedy is one of the more difficult, in my opinion, art, because I mean, I watch some stand-up comedy, and someone once asked me if I should ask me to do a comedy, like a 5-minute stand-up comedy set. And I ended up turning it down because it was like, I can't think of anything worse than trying to be funny and not being funny. And yet there's situations in life where I've seen, like when we were at my girlfriend's parents' house, we were, myself, Emmy and her mom were all talking, and her dad was like sitting a bit further down, like really concentrating like on his iPad, right? And as we were talking, we could see him like kind of looking towards us every now and then. And next thing, his iPad was down and he was just looking, listening. And then I turned around and next thing he was like sitting right next to me, like all of a sudden. And it was an absolutely hilarious situation. But it's like, how do I take that and try and put it into a story so it's actually funny? Like, I don't know. I've got big respect for anyone who's able to write good comedy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's and I love stand. Like good stand-up is awesome, and it's such a scary thing. When I was in theater school, we had like a week-long course of stand-up, and then we had to do our own stand-up show, and we all had to do like a 15-minute set or like 20-minute set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in front of a live audience.
Oh, shit.
In school. And that was like one of the scariest things to do, because
15, 20 minutes.
Because if people, because it's such a simple sport in a sense, you know, like if they laugh, you're good. If they don't laugh, you're dead. Like, and dying on stage in stand-up is like the worst experience. Like that's worse than, you know, like being on stage and forgetting your lines. And
no, that's
knows.
much
like,
worse.
That's like being there and trying to be funny and people don't laugh at your material.
Oh,
like
gosh.
That is the worst feeling. And so, yeah, huge admiration to like everyone who can actually do that. And
so how did it go?
No, it went really well because I'm funny. No, but it's but still, I mean, that's also like just going in before you know how it's gonna go. Like that's so scary. Like, that's incredible. But as soon as you get the first laughs, and then you know, like the good stuff is just, you know, about to come. Then
I think a lot of stand-up comedians, before they do these big specials, they do a lot of little small venues, and then they see which jokes work. And which ones don't, until they have like a polished script, from what I kind of understand. So now going forward, like in your life in general, what's the route? What do you kind of see for yourself, or what would you want to kind of achieve? Just so we can come back to this video
Yeah, and see like
and be like, oh
how is that?
shit.
So should I just manifest everything
Yes,
huge for
do it,
me
bro.
in this moment, so then it becomes
Do
reality?
it. The air is pregnant with electricity
Yes.
and purpose, right? You know?
Well, what can I say? I don't want to jinx anything. Like I should be able to manifest big things for myself and stuff like that, but I don't want to jinx anything because
Only say what you feel is all right.
because like everything when I started, because I come from the north, like I've come from Oulu, and like none of the people in my family are artists. Like I don't have any professional artists in my family, which I'm really happy about because I know that all the decisions that I've made in my life, I was never pushed towards anything. I was always like, they were my own decisions. I chose this lifestyle and this life because I wanted to. I just wanted it so bad. And everything's worked out really well thus far. And I just hope that the only thing that I want is to be able to, have a steady income as an actor. That's literally like the only dream that I kind of have. What I really want to do professionally, what I would love to still do is I still want to work on international projects. I kind of try to put myself in situations where I end up working projects that have like international potential or like are international, and maybe that pushes me forward towards it. But at the same time, like I would love to do like a big role, like a big part on an international TV show or a film, and that would be a great experience because like when I did like when I filmed like Vikings Valhalla, which
That's
was a really
crazy,
small
by the
part,
way.
and yeah, that was great. And then I did The Last Kingdom, but that was like Vikings Valhalla was like a really small part. The Last Kingdom was a little bit bigger, but in total that was like 10.5 months away from home in total. It was
Holy
2.5
shit,
months
yeah.
in Ireland and 8 months in Hungary. And that was during COVID, so I couldn't travel back and forth. So I came home like 2 times within like a span of 10.5 months.
Wow. Were you that far? Were you away from your wife for that long?
Yeah. I was
Holy
home for
shit.
Christmas, and then I was a few days in May. But otherwise I was basically living in a bubble, like in
Crazy.
Dublin and Budapest during those times. So I would love to experience like working abroad, doing like a show, but then being able to kind of live, a little bit more freely. I feel that would be really like a great experience because obviously like when we were in Budapest, for example, for 8 months, like everything was closed.
Oh yeah, that must have been rough.
That's a bit, but
I mean, I'm not taking away from. I'm sure you had many positive.
yeah, and still, and
things.
obviously, but it was, and for a lot of people, I mean, COVID was Jesus. Like, it feels like 100 years ago.
Yo,
but
that shit was wild.
That was so crazy. But I mean,
Holy shit.
it was kind of tough mentally, like at times, just kind of being away from everything. Anyways, but still.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the cool experience, especially with The Last Kingdom, is like we lived together. It was like, I don't know what the word is in English, but like kansanopisto, which is kind of like a community college, but you all lived there basically for a year. And that I went to one before I got to theater school, and I felt like that was the same thing all over again, but just internationally. I'm like living with all these other like actors, and we're just kind of like, we can't do anything, so we just kind of hung out.
Sounds like the Lord of the Rings production.
Yeah, right. So it was just us, and we just watched films and had dinner, like prepared dinner together, and just ate and just chatted and talked. And that's like an experience after 8 months of that, making like friends for life, because otherwise we would have been traveling in and back out again, and going back and forth between like home and the set. But there we couldn't leave, so we just had to stick together and live together. So, and
10 months.
But that was like a great experience. And still, like Eystein Sigurdarsson, who's like the guy who's basically right hand I played on the show.
Yeah.
He's still like one of my dearest friends. Like,
what show was that again?
That's The Last Kingdom.
Oh, I haven't seen The Last Kingdom. Okay, I'm putting that on my list.
I love the show, and it's like, but that was, and I love those people so much. We became like a family, and I'm like, I hear from like a bunch of them on a regular basis, and especially with Ace, is like I just sent him a message before I came in here, and
awesome.
So that's like an experience. If things would have been different, maybe everything would be a little different. Maybe we wouldn't have become such good friends.
Right.
But we had that experience that really made us like a really close knit bunch of people. And then,
Yeah.
but still, I would love to have an experience like that, but just, take the COVID out of the equation.
Right. And then to have that. So basically, I can imagine it can be kind of stressful to trying to earn like consistently.
Yeah, as a freelancer.
A freelancer.
Yeah.
So you don't have an agent or anything. Right?
I have an agent here in Finland and I have another one in Ireland. So, I mean, it's like the situation is like pretty good. Like, I mean, I get opportunities every now and then.
Yeah.
And I've been working steadily. Like now this year, I'm about to start my third project of like
awesome
third show for this year. So it's been like it's been an all right year at the end of the day, even though like the beginning of the year was pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But I just hope that I'll be able to be, continue working steadily and get paid for doing what I love.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
always been my dream, and that
Yeah.
it still is. And it doesn't have to be huge. I'm 35. I don't have huge aspirations for myself to be like
I mean, that is pretty
guy
young, let's be honest.
Well, as an actor, it's a good age to be in, especially if you're a guy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because that's how it just works.
Yeah, dude.
Sadly,
I mean,
still.
I think I've definitely got. I know we just met in real life right now, but you've definitely got a presence about you, and you seem to really feel what you say. And I think having that personal conviction, I think that's a powerful thing, and I think I can imagine you rocking a bunch of different freaking roles, right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I totally
lovely
see
to
that.
hear that.
Yeah,
it's lovely to hear
I'm
that.
throwing that out there because I know acting, it's not always the easiest thing. I know it's easier today or whatever, but like the fact that you have to kind of put your heart out there and you have to deeply understand these fictional characters and you have to put your mind in their shoes and you're basically experiencing the experiences of another person, like literally putting yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that's like mentally that I know for you might just be work or whatever, but I know for me, I'd feel that mentally that would be really heavy.
And you have to, but I just want to continue on from there because there's, because I love the word for acting in Finnish is näytellä, which is probably the etymology, the meaning of the word in its essence comes from the word näyttää, which is to show or reveal.
Right.
And that's what I feel like when I'm acting, in a sense, is not maybe even as much as, pretending to be someone else. Is more like I try to reveal who I am. Is somehow it's, as an actor, I try to be in a place where I'm just as honest as I can be. Like the only feelings that I have are the feelings that I've felt as a person in my life. So I can't feel anybody else's feelings but my own. I just have to kind of let the situation of somebody else's situation affect me as a person in a sense that it kind of conjures something up in me that's my own, and then I want to show like a side of myself and be as honest about it as I can.
Yeah,
but that's always in a sense it's me on some weird level. It's still like me as a person. But that thing also, I want to manifest one thing, which is I've done a lot of supporting roles. That's my thing. And I feel like it's been fun and it's been great. And I feel I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But still, what I really want to do, I'm 35 now. And my dream is either in Finland or internationally, but let's say start off in Finland and be the number one on a call sheet. So be the character number, be the leading guy on a show or a film would be really great, because I feel like I've done this for quite a long time and I've learned from like great number ones like Alex Draymond or Peter Frantzen, or like people who were just like incredibly talented, but not only talented, but also like know how to be the number one, like are also almost like HODs, like head of departments for actors, or like they kind of care for everyone in the cast. They see if they're doing all right. They communicate between the production and the cast members, and they make sure like that everyone's feeling good and everything's like up to speed and nobody has any like personal issues or something they want to have, taken care of or covered.
Right.
And I feel like I'm kind of starting to be ready for that responsibility, and I would just love that experience. And maybe when I say it out loud now here, then that's
I believe it with you, man. That sounds awesome. That sounds really, really freaking awesome. And like, I don't know. I really appreciate just that you are willing to open up about that. And because when I hear someone else's dream, I get super inspired as well. I'm like, fuck that, yeah. And lastly, I'd ask if there's a young actor, upcoming actor who's done nothing, really wants to start acting, like, and they want a little bit of advice on how to start or how to become a little better. Like, is there anything you would say to them?
Yeah, I would say like I've read like a bunch of interviews that like young actors have given out, and I'm like slightly concerned about this one thing. There's this like some actors who've like maybe from a young age got like some film roles or like TV shows or stuff like that, and then they might talk about they might say that they just want to work and they don't want to go to like theater school and spend all that time there. And I would say like, please go to the theater, like go and see it and do theater, like make theater and experience that, and try to get into theater school and take that time. They take those 5 years or 6 years. I did 5 and then I did 1 year as an exchange student in Belgium.
Right.
But like take that time and like develop your craft, like be humble enough to develop that craft. You don't get paid for it, but it's an incredible, it's really expensive and the government pays for it if you get in. And like, that's the place where you can really develop your skill set. As an actor, it's so important to have like a skill set that you can use in your work, because that's going to be the currency you're going to be working with for the rest of your life.
Right.
And the theater is that place, like the place where you can actually try out your limits, like see, it's such like a journey and almost like a spiritual journey into yourself. Like those 5 years that you spend in theater school, where you kind of dig deep and you find yourself in some manner, or at least you like know who you are as an actor to some extent when you come out, because you've had all that time to figure it out and try it out and expose yourself to different kinds of thinking and different aspects of the craft. Because when you're on a film set or a movie set, you really rarely have that time to do that research or to even rehearse those scenes that much or anything. So you kind of have to be ready when you go in.
Right.
And when you're young, you cannot be that ready yet. Like you have to have that time to see where your limits are. Like if you want to find something new within yourself, then theater is like the perfect place for an actor for it, because it's a different kind of a machine. And that's the place for the actor, because like when you work in film or TV or stuff like that, it's a machine, but it's not necessarily an actor's machine. Right. Because it's like totally the director, the cinematographer, the writer, the producer, like everyone contributes, but it's not that centered around like an actor or what they do. But in the theater, when you're on stage, you are the conqueror on that stage. Like you control the situation. Like everything that happens, it's about you as actors. And so please get yourself in the theater world and go to school. Like take that opportunity, because it's a huge opportunity. Try to get in. If you don't get in, then there are like places like ylioppilasteatteri and different types of like places where you can go in and just, do theater, make plays, study theater, see, like just develop your craft. And that's the best place for it. So that's what I would probably say.
That is so awesome.
And be humble.
And be humble. Sit down. Yeah.
Be humble.
Yeah.
Like Kendrick said.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Jaakko, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for coming through. I know you cycled and the rain is gone now. So.
Hey, perfect.
But thank you again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
This was my pleasure.